Wonderful. So 500 by 90 has been 3 conversations. And the first one was what's working, and that was in November. And our second one was come together, and that was in March. So first we hosted a large conversation and we collected a lot of data. From there, we created action areas and teams. We had our second conversation and we launched 6 of those teams. We spent time collaborating with Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Y.O.U regional consultants. And then from there, we've created a system for team autonomy so that when we started this, we wanted to do this in the way that would ensure that the teams could do what they needed to do, but also we're really all volunteering for International Youth of Unity. And so we want to be able to make sure that they were in the loop about what was going on, but didn't have to be at every meeting. So that's where that's going.
I'll tag in here. So there were 6 teams that we created, and we'll get into those later, but we have these sort of secondary teams, which are pieces of projects that we're sort of the next step of things we're working on. Chapter X, which is the idea of a virtual chapter throughout the school year. League of Regions, which is concept of a new office or post for one youth from each region. So it would be kind of a coming together of youth, and that they would be the folks who would be the Chapter X virtual events for the virtual chapter. And so that's sort of one pair of concepts there. And then the regional board administrator training is something we feel we're working on as well, so that we can make sure that everyone is up to speed on what Y.O.U is doing, the history of Y.O.U, the importance of a Y.O.U program, and communication is all up to speed on that. And then another topic that was brought up that's sort of an eventual thing is setting up a system of awards that help develop, as some incentives and things to help all these things move along as well. So emails for meetings about those things will be coming up soon. We just wanted to drive by and mention them very quickly, but that's not the focus of today. Today, one of the things we really wanted to talk about was how we can, as teams, have some sort of common best practices. And for us, the why was we want everyone to be able to see what each other are doing in the most positive sense, so that being able to see that this other team is making this effort, maybe we can combine forces for something, or, oh, they're doing that, we're going to go focus on this over here. But then also being able to, have a place where when you put updates about your team, everyone who needs to see those updates and can be informed and start to share the word around to each other, has that possible. So what we've created is a Google Drive folder for each team, so that there's a Google Doc to track and keep notes on. And then there would also be a team roster spreadsheet in there, so that everyone can see who has volunteered to be on that team. You can make phone calls and emails to each other based on the information on the roster. And then we have a Google Doc so everyone can see inside those notes and add to them. And then our goal would also be to have there to be a sort of a representative, not necessarily hierarchical leader, but just somebody who is sort of the main point of contact. When we have a question like, hey, what's the team doing about this? We aren't guessing at who to call. There's maybe one person who is sort of the conduit for us if we have a question about that. And then we created a page called the Hub page, and the Hub page is for all of the volunteers for all of this booster activity, so that we can see common updates on a web page. If we know of other volunteers we think that we want to start looping in, we can sort of show them what's going on. It's just sort of an open space where we can see all the booster activity in one place. And then one of the things we're hoping is that when you're sending emails, you can just CC IYOU booster at Gmail. And we've created that address just so that any meeting we're doing about these booster activities, if you CC that, it goes into there, and that way there's sort of a third party record, I would say, of what is happening at once, so that it isn't ever stuck in one of our brains, because that could be later. We want all that stuff to be accessible all the time. So we're going to put together some guidance around this that we'll send out as well. But the goal is that you feel autonomous, you can take action, you can gather, you can get together, you can propose things. If you need us for major decisions that you don't feel like you are empowered to make, sending things out sort of that might represent the organization somehow, or if you're just plain need help and you want to talk through it.
And really, anything that you would want to send out to the public, we just want to make sure that, I don't know if permission's the right word, but like, we are representing International Youth of Unity. So it seems, again, the best practice that they know what we're sending out before we're doing it. And they've been very supportive. And also, if there's any decisions, like, we're already starting to compile a list of things such as website. That's a common question. So any of those sorts of things, like how are we going to do that? Definitely know that we're, wanting to be there. And really the other thing about this is that we'd like you to try to communicate via email versus going into a different platform, because we know everybody has email, and certainly you could just use that to create a time to meet. And then, which we didn't put on here, but we're more than happy to share our Zoom account if that is helpful. So.
Just a question on the hub. I'm looking at, is that hub.youalumni.com?
Yes.
Thank you.
And right now it's not got a lot going on, but the intention is that we'd like to be able to share some of our Google documents there. And then, also as teams are doing more stuff, really we had our last meeting and then this meeting, and it was pretty quick turnaround time to be able to have an extra meeting in between. So, but as those meetings are happening, we'd like to be able to put our calendar up there and have this be like a place, like a one-stop that everybody can see everything that's going on. I went ahead and put a link in the chat also. So our intention tonight was to have all of our 6 teams meet again, or like whatever iteration, but with such a smaller group, definitely think we should go look at all of the teams and then see maybe who we have here who's interested in meeting in those teams. We could create some breakout groups maybe, and then if the other groups were smaller, we could meet in here. I'm sort of asking as if like, okay, so for now, 1 team per person tonight, and these are the teams that we have, and we'll get moving. Okay, number 1, probably the biggest and like the biggest need, chapter support, immediate international Y.O.U chapter support for optimal growth and renewal. Lifelong Unity membership, supporting Unity membership before and after Y.O.U. This is looking at things like what it's like to be before the Y.O.U state, but also after. But it's really the whole piece, because that'll come into place with our next slide, which is homecoming after Y.O.U. This is really to address that after Y.O.U, there's a huge drop off usually. And so this brings people to either Next Generation, Youth of Unity Alumni Network, but also what other resources, Nehemiah retreats at Unity Village, for example, and how can we also create a space that's a home, after Y.O.U. social media, consistent social media presence to promote youth immunity. Village, woo, creating enhancing spaces at Unity Village to honor International Y.O.U. I really was at our picnic bench the other day. So it's not a bench. Well, it is a bench. I just think it's a table. Anyway, it needs love at very least. So that's, among other ideas. All right, fundraising. And we got to have a way to make all this happen. So that would be, those are our 6 teams tonight. So what I think we'll do is we'll go ahead and we're going to make these breakout groups, and then you can decide if you want to be in those groups. Now, as it stands right now, as from our last meeting, the people that joined those groups, we have all of them. So if you were here last time, we have all of you added to the Google Drives for all of these, for all of our teams. But if you're new and you're just joining a team tonight, we'll have to add you, because each of these drives has the document where you can kind of talk about what you're doing. And by talking about what you're doing there, then we'll have everyone in the loop with what you're doing. So, all right, we're gonna send out some breakout groups, and we'll call you back probably in about an hour. And when you're in your meeting, if you can just be focusing on like, what are the kind of action items that you want to have? And what are some things that you would like to accomplish by Y.O.U. and for next year? And really like, yeah. Last time it was super exciting because, I mean, I'm biased, but I think alumni are the best people on earth. So being here makes us all better, I think. So we're super excited. Yes, go ahead.
I think it'll probably be less than an hour, because I think that'll probably be about 45 minutes is my guess for the time of the brief.
So this is Kathy. I have a question since I'm new.
Yeah.
So there's 12 people tonight. I'm obviously brand new. How many people have been involved in this, and how big are these I mean, I realize tonight's a small meeting, but is this just a small group at this point, or do we have tons of participation, or where are we at with this?
I would say we've had a few dozen people over the course of the 3 meetings. Each one has been, 10 to 20 people total. And so some of the breakouts would be just 2-person conversation. I will say last time, no one went to the fundraising breakout, so that one was left empty. And so if no one comes, that's fine. We'll move that forward when the right volunteers arrive. But whatever feels like the area that you feel most connected to, I think is the place to have a conversation. And yeah, they have been about sort of 3-4 people at most so far.
So I got this on Facebook, and I saw it the other day, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And it's Facebook's Facebook. And so then I saw it again today, and I go, I really should pay attention to this because this is important to me. But I was expecting there to be 100 people on this call. So I think one of the things we need to focus on is more participation from all of the great alumni that are out there. I'm just thinking about from my generation, and I can think of like 20 people that I should reach out to say, hey, this is guys, there's some good goals here. And so I guess one of the things I think we need to think about is how, maybe you got to keep it a small group, which is fine. I don't mean to be driving this in any direction, but.
Oh no, we've been ringing the bell. Okay. So we are happy to any amplification is very, very welcome.
Right. And certainly if you want to help with this. We've been
direct contacting our own folks, and we're very happy to. My sense is that these teams will be needed in an ongoing way, and we will continue to need to recruit to them. And so I would, we'll continue to have these meetings, and hopefully they will indeed build. I think
all right, I understand.
We would love it.
Okay.
And I will say that we did some virtual rallies sort of earlier in the pandemic, and there were some times when we had some sort of conversations and events within that sort of about this topic. And that was like 30, 40, 50, there were a lot more people involved in some of those because there was another gathering attached to it. So I do think you're right that there's a sense people would participate if it got through their perception filter.
Right. Well, I mean, even just thinking of it, and again, I have no idea what's been done, but I can think of people who I know who are ministers throughout the country. And so I have no idea. I mean, again, I'm still shocked that there's only 50 people or whatever the number is going to be at a Y.O.U conference. I can't imagine that there aren't more people that would just love to participate in that. So it just seems like there's Unity ministers that are out there too, who are Y.O.Uers. And so I don't know, I'm kind of a little bit of shock at the moment. So you got to forgive me.
No, that shock is a very valuable feeling, I think, for it certainly is the thing that has made Betsy and I get into gear and kind of drive this is like,
yeah, I appreciate you doing that.
This is we want to see and it is validating to hear this from you too, that you also feel this way. So I'm so glad you're here, and hopefully we can find some ways, because the truth is we've all got a lot of wisdom to share and to contribute here, and with our resources, and especially afterwards we can reach out and we can continue to add to these teams and build, and then all that can hopefully grow the whole thing back a bit.
Sure.
Liz, okay. I'd love to tag on that too, Kathy, is, what's interesting is we did have a pandemic for 3 years. The two incoming regies this year came into Y.O.U during the pandemic. So a lot of people, we had a lot of graduates that graduated during that 3 years as well. So there's a lot of newbies that have come on board throughout the pandemic. And even in our region, we're growing back to where we were. And what was it, Miranda, last rally, how many kids do we have? 30, 40 kids, which is a low number, but it's a pretty darn good number considering we were down for the count for 3 years.
Sure.
So the same thing with IYOU, Julie. Last year was our first event back to IYOU after 3 years down for the count. Mm-hmm. And having 45 people there was a really good number, considering that there was quite a few newbies that had come into YOU during that time frame, and a lot that graduated out during that time frame. So it's rebuilding the program back, and it's those of us that have been involved in this for a very long time. Linz, Betsy, thank you for doing this. I honor both of you for bringing this in, because the energy that we are putting into this is going to spread out, and it's just going to continue to spread so that we can grow our programs back to where they need to be again.
Sure. Fabulous.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've seen at the regional level, chapter level, and international level is when the pandemic hit and the kids kind of went away, weren't at the churches, and then the chapter meetings, after a while, Zoom just wasn't cutting it for them, and they just got zoomed out. And so chapters just kind of went away. Susan, if you guys had 35 at your rally, that's a great number. Great Lakes, their fall retreat was 8 kids and 9 adults. And we're looking at our June rally at being 15 to 20 people. And, Great Lakes used to be one of the most active and largest regions in terms of YOU. And so we've just seen this huge decimation of the program. I'm just thrilled because I just in the past month have a YOU chapter again. I sat there for several years holding the space and holding the space. And so now I have 4 kids that have been there. And that's just so exciting that, there is that chapter. And so there is this energy out there that is starting to grow back. And it really takes holding that space, and especially all of you, holding the space and holding that energy that will really drive the program growing again. So I thank all of you, and I honor all of you for everything you're doing.
Well, and I'll jump in there too. Ed Rosequist, I'm at the Unity Renaissance in Chesapeake, Virginia. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had 14 YOUers that were very active, took 12 to rally. And it wasn't just the Zoom challenge. a lot of kids got jobs, and they're getting jobs on the weekends. So again, they're kind of what I would say their culture kind of moved from kind of the Y.O.U Sunday experience to, checking out at Kroger. And that's really, very challenging to pull that back when, there was a lot of that going on, at least in my chapter, and how we tried to get them excited about a Sunday experience again. And like you said, a lot of them graduated out, and the youngsters, the Uniteeners that were not going to any kind of church did not grow into Y.O.U. So there was no transition there. Currently, our church we have a combined Uniteen Y.O.U group that we're trying to eventually get, hopefully by September, to split, because we'll have about 6 freshmen, high schoolers, and 2 sophomores that potentially will be able to grow, but none of them have ever been to a rally, and only a couple of them have been to a Uniteen retreat. So it's going to be, at least from our perspective, a real challenge to get them to mature into how we work Y.O.U. And I think that's going to be another challenge for us. And that's why I'm in the chapter support team, because I think a lot of chapters are going to have a real difficult time of finding that maturity level, because that was the great thing of having a couple, seniors and juniors that had been to many rallies and IYOU and different stuff. And, it's just going to be, I think, a real challenge to, get them to really settle down for meditative kind of things, or God walks, or a lot of different stuff that we've been doing in Y.O.U for a long time. Thanks.
All right, we are gonna go into our breakout groups. So I'm gonna open them, and you have all been invited to join them, and we'll broadcast when we would like you to come back. And thank you all for being here.
Hello?
If you haven't done breakout rooms before, there should be a box below it. We can also send you to one if you want to go to a specific one and that's having trouble with the interface.
Don't see anything here.
Okay, which one did you want to go to, Kathy?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I think I put down chapter support. I don't know. Part of it for me is where I can be the most used.
I think chapter support's a great place to get a sort of sense of what's going on, and then you can sort of see where your use is maybe through that. Because I think
sounds good.
Yeah, I'll move you.
Rachel, what group were we in?
I'm thinking we might have been in homecoming after Y.O.U. Does that sound
Okay.
right?
I thought so. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I wasn't
Okay,
sure
I need to go.
either. I'm pretty
Can we
sure
go
I
back?
put a few teams on my list of things, and I didn't remember which one I ended up in. So
I
All
believe
right.
you both were in homecoming.
yeah,
Rachel,
I'm
You want to
gonna,
send us back?
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and click on that for myself.
Yeah, Linda, it's weird. It shows you in homecoming, but you're also clearly here.
I was there, but I came out. Is there a way to send me back?
Has to
No.
be. Linz?
Uh,
I wonder if we have to like send you to the wait. That can't be right.
Wait a
I'm gonna
minute. Let me try this.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I got it.
All right.
Thank you. It shows me in there.
I went in there and I was the only one in there, and it said that there was somebody already in there.
So Linda should be there now.
Okay, well, there was somebody it said there was somebody already in there, so. All right, let me try again.
Give it a shot.
Because there are 2 people in there now.
It's one of them's you.
Join it. Go, Rachel, go.
All right. Success.
Are we
I think it's so
recording?
interesting that nobody
You want to hit
has
stop
gone
and
into the
record?
fundraising part of it.
Oh, end. Okay.
I feel like that
that's in meeting.
fundraising
Okay,
fundraising might be a thing Kathy might be down with. I mean, if she's had got friends who are, you know, like, I have a feeling her. All right. Anyone want to start off? Volunteer, Rachel?
I don't mind doing that. I just didn't know if you had a systematic way to approach it. So Linda and I were in the homecoming Y.O.U homecoming after homecoming after Y.O.U team. I'm like, I can't remember what the words are. And for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Rachel Gaither. I'm the Next Gen and Young Adult Coordinator for UWM. And like Julie Core, I am part-time. So I'm trying to do a lot with a little. But Linda and I also work together with one of the aspects of my programming that I'm putting together. And we kind of talked about what the pieces are so far that we're starting to put together with Next Gen, really pushing the idea of spirit groups and just spirit group hosting training for that. It's already a structure that has training resources, they have support resources, and it really is just a really great overlap for the type of group that Y.O.Uers are used to. So there's that we're working on. And then we've acquired the Love Light program from the Light Center, and I was working on like a travel exchange, the possibility of a travel exchange program after high school. And that's still we're still trying to like finagle that. Right now, what we're looking at doing is making it an international Y.O.U office trip. So we're hoping that will actually bring in a lot of interest in Y.O.U, in IYOU, in leadership within Y.O.U. And Julie and I have already talked about that a little bit and what those possibilities are. We just got funded for this year, so which is like half of my freaking job. So there's that we're working towards. What was the other thing? Oh, the event. So Linda, I'm working on planning a Next Gen event for next April. That's a service oriented event, a Nehemiah retreat at the village just for Next Gen. And we're looking at making it a national event where people can also participate virtually by having their own pockets of service projects, and then having different aspects of it be integrated virtually. That has not even been touched yet by myself because I'm doing a million other things. But Linda and I talked a little bit about her helping me build a Next Gen team and just now. And Linda, also, do you want to share your idea, that the thing that you did with bridging? Because I think that's brilliant. It's simple, but it's so brilliant.
Well, Heather was part of it. That's what I was reminding her. When I was somewhere in between sponsoring all 3 groups, we had Next Gen, Y.O.U, and Uniteens meet once a month. And Linda paid for pizza, and they had to give me money, even if it was a penny. And so what we would do is once a month, we would have Next Gen, Y.O.U, and Uniteens, and we would literally go out to dinner. Each group would have their meeting, a heart share kind of meeting. And then about an hour into it, we would all just go out to pizza and hang out, and they would literally interact with each other, and they got to know each other. So the Uniteens weren't afraid to go Y.O.U. Y.O.U weren't afraid of the Next Gen. So, we had a lot of fun. And yeah, they did a lot of stuff to me. I feel, I had to grow up real fast, but yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. And I think if we do that, as part of this, it will really help that transition between each group. Heather, you want to say something about it, please?
Hi, good to see you, first of all. So yeah, I found Unity literally on my 18th birthday. So I came in and almost immediately became kind of a junior sponsor. And several years in, Linda and some other people helped connect me and my peer group with NGU. So we were simultaneously, Y.O.U junior sponsors and NGU, and that really helped. And I think we were also able to help feed a couple of our graduating seniors from Y.O.U into the NGU. And I was actually, before Linda started talking, literally just writing a note for myself to connect with my nearest NGU chapter so that they can start to get to know our new Y.O.Uers who are just now freshmen and sophomores, so that will easily transition later.
Well, that is an exceptional idea that I definitely think should be more universal. So the bridging concept for sure, that's really, I mean, that also sort of spreads to lifelong unity, but those have a pretty natural overlap. So
That's a good segue. Let's see what the lifelong unity conversation yielded.
I joined Miranda and Susan, and I feel like we went on a whole journey talking about all kinds of different ways of supporting. I mean, so much focus is on how do we, it's like all the pieces all at once, right? Like how do we support when people leave Y.O.U, that can be so, I think Susan described it as like we put them just in the middle of the road and just traffic on all sides. And a lot of the focus of this team is really, which, I got the chance to visit into, it's all of the pieces. How do we help uniteens? How do we help the kids? How do we encourage membership in Unity churches? How do we encourage volunteers? And so many cool ideas. Next year, Miranda has a grad and she's literally working on care packages to them. And I think that's incredible. Just like connecting, staying connected. And then just different ways. We talked about something that we're calling an experience gap. And the experience gap is the difference of experience between your average Unity congregant and your Youth of Unity member or your Y.O.U sponsor that attends rallies, because that is a huge gap of experience. And it's really hard to explain. And a lot of times youth and early adults, we don't have to call them young adults, get disregarded for all kinds of stuff. So we had a pretty good chat, and we're going to see who else joins. And I think I covered it, and I appreciate Miranda and Susan being a part of their, vibe. Did I cover everything? Are we good? All right. And so with that, I think we'll chapter support.
Well, I'll gladly jump in there on chapter support. I had Heather from Tampa, Kathy from St. Pete, and Asa from Houston all kind of come in and talked. And we talked about our last kind of meeting when we were kind of brainstorming out some things and we're thinking about some stuff. And it was a really a good discussion, and we added a couple things to kind of the list. But really what we kind of talked about was, again, we need to figure out a methodology that we, how do we find best practices and stuff to the chapters? How do we create, the right kind of things that will really inspire and create positive, but also, kind of this safe place generation that we can create in our chapters. And it's like, how do you build, and Asa brought this up about how do you build the teen church? How do you make it theirs? And that's, creating the safety that you need for really feeling part of and truly feeling a place that you can really share with basically love and healing. So it was a good discussion, but we do think we need to figure out how we can bring in the regional Y.O.U consultants a little bit more to have this discussion, because they're really the people that are standardizing the regions. And then how do we figure out methodologies around better sharing of curriculum and again, TED Talks and any kind of things that's out there that will actually build the chapter and build that teen church that we want to create. And we're interested in what the social media group does too, because that's going to play a huge part in how do we touch the teens, because they're definitely in it. And from our perspective, we started thinking about, and this was just kind of a brainstorming idea, and this is over to Julie Core, but could Y.O.U turn into kind of like a place where we could make a whole bunch of, TikTok videos or reels or any of that kind of stuff that could then be distributed out to the chapters over time, and actually, create kind of that little bit of an excitement and kind of a lesson around stuff. So some way of making maybe Y.O.U in the summer kind of the developers for how we bring chapters, bring more folks into the chapters that's there. So just a thought. I'll leave it there.
Awesome.
I kind of wanted to add a couple of things just because,
Let's do.
if that's okay. Okay. Part of one of the other things I touched on a little bit with the idea of chapter support was also like regrowing the church. As we've seen here, there aren't very many of us here right now, for example, and our church in Houston kind of regrowing. I'm assuming that everybody's experiencing some of that. So part of what I was articulating was, how do we make it known that it's a safe place to come? And that part of the principle, I think, of what a church, the function a church really provides is a body, a regulating body, a place where you can go, where there is somebody who does have a nervous system that understands healing, that understands wounds, that understands how to be welcoming, to be safe, so that people can come and feel at home. And that's kind of the, I think, purpose of the church. So how do we outreach without being evangelical? Like, it doesn't even have to be religious, but just how to outreach about this space being safe in places that need it. Like, legally, we're dealing with a lot of issues that are creating more pain, like in Tennessee, not being allowed to have a drag show without you're just not able to dress in drag without being persecuted, essentially. So we have real people in the world right now who might not know that unity is supposed to be safe, and figuring out how to provide chapter support for kind of growing. And what does it really look like to grow? Is it really just that we want to talk about, this or the other thing, or is it that we want to create a place for people to be safe, to heal? And kind of regrowing like the heart of the church, that what I said was, you can be anybody and walk into this church, and I will wash your feet, and I will feed you, and I will make you safe. And that's like what it really is to be unity, to have a church, to walk this path. And that's my bias. I'm projecting it, but that's what that was meaningful to me as a human, and that's part of why I'm here. So I think when you create that safe place, like, those who need it will find it. Like, you build it and they will come. And if we need to increase that really, like, that wellspring, that place that is really generating the energy of safety and belonging, it doesn't matter what denomination you are or what religion you are. That's, I think, what unity is really trying to hold the light for, and finding ways to support chapters to understand how to deal with trauma, so that they don't have just not know how to even handle it if it does come to their door. Being more trained on that level, so that we can be open. I mean, if something crappy happens that none of us want to talk about, we would want to be able to be the light, the place where people really could go. So if we're trained and ready, then they will find us. So that's kind of what we meant by the teen church of the site, like the idea of how do we create a space where teenagers know they can go and they can speak. So, okay, I think I'm good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing that. We also, my brain's bouncing off of what you said, but I had another thing and they're canceling each other out. So who else has anything else? Any other thoughts? Well, okay, I do remember a little bit of it now. Julie, Lou, and I were indeed talking a little bit about social media and how to make exciting social media that's grounded in the spirituality that and the depth that makes Y.O.U so powerful. There are trends and there are things and there's fun to be had, and fun is great. And also the spirituality has to be sort of the core of that to kind of continue to perpetuate that depth. And so, we talked a little bit about how we might pull that off, or how that might look in the social media realm. Lou mentioned talking about recruiting some more Y.O.Uers for that social media effort. And so I think, yeah, sounds like there's some kind of a movement on that front that we need to kind of keep talking about, keep it alive. And then, so Betsy, I'm going to kick it to you for the wrap.
All right. So, wow. Well, I first want to thank all of you for being here tonight and really just holding this space. Woo-wee. So, we are just about, here's what's next. From here, this kind of concludes 500 by 90. This is really just 3 conversations, but what we have done now is we've launched these teams. We are still here to support these teams. And there's a lot of people that have reached out to us even that can't be here. So everyone here, has already, unless this is your first time joining us, you've already been added to like the email list with the rest of your team and the Y.O.U booster. And then as people continue, we will add them to those teams, and then hopefully they can meet. We'd like to see having a meeting kind of like this in the fall. We're thinking August, September. And really what we're moving to now is like, we're going to continue to like support these teams. We're going to continue to talk about these teams. We're going to continue to help. And really, we're just like so grateful that all of you have shown up. And I think that's about it.
Thank you for creating the space for us to meet like this, Linz and Betsy. It really is revolutionary because I know I don't have the bandwidth to do it. So thank you so much. It's incredibly invaluable to our movement and to our youth program. So thank you for being who you are. Don't think I won't call you about that virtual part of that event next year, because I'm definitely going to do that. So.
And if I could just jump in and say, on behalf of Unity Worldwide Ministries and Y.O.U, we are so grateful for Linz and for Betsy for spearheading this, and for everybody else who's participating and being members of these teams. And just, it just warms the cockles of my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
My question is, why are we stopping?
Oh, we're not. It's just 500 by 90. It's really a name change. We're booster teams now because this was a specific contract we had. Well, contract's a really strong word, but like agreement.
I understand.
But we're still going to have this conversation in the fall. Like, we're not really like, this is honestly, like, as far as an alumni network, we are going to shift in some ways full time to helping funnel these teams and helping support these teams. Because I put out a thing today that explained that rally photos look like chapter pictures, and someone was like, they do? And I was like, that's the regions that have rallies. Like, some didn't have them this year. Some had one that was like 10 a.m. to 4 on a Saturday. Like, I'm not saying that so everybody's like, oh, I feel so, like, it's just like, the work we're doing here is like real and very needed.
No,
So
I'm also going to add, Lou, I know Lou personally as well. And Lou is on every one of these calls. Anything that we've ever done that even didn't have to have this relation to it. And Lou, thank you for being here. As always, you're always here. And I'm so grateful for the gift of you. How do you feel? You graduated last year out of Y.O.U, but you've moved on to be the Indy. So I'm grateful I get to see you there too. How do you feel to get the word out to other teens to possibly join into some of these groups to help this movement of what our passion is as adults, but how do we get people as your age group, graduates, just recent grads across the country involved in this to bring them in? Rachel, I love what you said with everything that you said, because I've seen it for years, is that this is a safe home for these teens to just strictly show up and be themselves on purpose. And the growth that we see in the teens and when they do graduate out. But how do we get, and Lou, I am presenting this to you, more people involved in your passion, in the passion that you have in this group? How would we get the word out to have people join these teams?
That may have to be a discussion at a later time, because I just got a text from Lou saying that their computers or the Zoom is completely glitched out for them.
Oh, okay. Because yeah.
So
earlier
it's
too.
like first the computer part of Zoom glitched out for them, and then they joined by the phone, and that has glitched out as well.
You know what? I'll reach out to Lou this week and I'll talk to Lou specifically about the question that I just had. But I feel like that's really important too, is to bring some more of the younger generation into our group to get their sense and feel on what's happening with it as well. And what they feel and what their passion is and how they feel like this can move forward in this movement. I just feel
call you, Susan, too, because I want to ask, like in St. Pete, I know we got to go. There's a lot of but former Y.O.Uers that a lot of them, if something happens, all of them will show up. So I just want to talk to you about your area. I know there's got to be a lot of them in your area too that are just sitting there. Okay, I'm through with that, but I'll call you, Susan.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that's a great thing, is if feel free to reach out to each other, please. We are now have demonstrated our willingness to be here and show up and kind of do some of the work. And so feel free to call a meeting, invite some people to do something. If you need us to help with that, feel free to ask us to do that. But we release you to bounce off upon each other out and about, and then we'll all kind of reverberate a bit more.
So I have a question. Is everybody willing to share their phone number so that each of us have a phone number and you can email that out? Is everyone willing to do that so that if we have specific questions for each other as well, we can do that? Betsy, would you be willing to share that in an email if everyone's willing to share their phone numbers with you?
Yes, I have. In each of the Google Drives, you have everyone's email address, but we didn't ask for phone numbers in the beginning. But if everyone drops it into the chat, I can send it out, certainly. And really, that was part of the reason that we were trying to give access to the Google Drive, so everybody would have everyone's email address. But also, this is great. I think one of the biggest intentions here is to have all of us be connected. So this is, we can add these certainly to rosters, and I think that the intention is that you'll just email the people that are in your teams, and we've started a chat there. And as you do that, then you can, I'll add myself. As you do that, then you can connect with everybody and bring them all together on Zoom or wherever that would work for you. So, and these teams are going to continue to grow. So this certainly isn't the end. It is, we're going to stick around and keep helping, because
I think we should keep the name and just schedule a few more things, honestly. I think
me too.
Brilliant. I think that, and you've already got traction with this name. It's a great name. It's very clear about the purpose. Stick it out, man. Stick this name out to the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solid
I
plan.
agree.
We'll
I
do.
agree, Rachel.
Meet monthly. Meet monthly.
I'm good with that.
Monthly.
Well, it's certainly like, I'll say, if any of you are interested in working on like the back end of this, because a lot of this is yes, that would be like, Kathy, you had kind of, not to put you on the spot, but you kind of were like, where are all the people? We're trying to get all the people, but any assistance with that is definitely.
But I hear the call for regular meetings. I think we might have a bit of a hangover after this one because we did two kind of back to back pretty quick. But I think the idea of getting into a rhythm where it's regular is certainly the way to go. At
Everything
whatever rhythm
stays
that is.
fresh. It's all fresh in our minds too.
It's fresh. I sent it out to the ministers in my area, and a lot of them are ex-Y.O.U. My subgroup in Florida. I sent it out to all of them, and there were a lot of them interested. It's just that it was quick notice. I didn't realize it was today. So, they're ministers.
I might make a suggestion in that you had that first meeting where you kind of did an overview, and if you do some kind of a condensed thing and maybe have a couple of meetings that are really all about what this group is and what you're looking for and what skills you're looking for, and getting people like me to reach out to my peers. I know you've been doing some of that on your own, but I think I think there needs to be more communication out to the whole Y.O.U network that's out there, and getting like a flyer that you can send out or something like that to kind of communicate the great work you guys are doing, because it's phenomenal. But I'm really surprised there's nobody from my generation that's on this call. That just, I was really expecting to see some familiar faces. So that might be helpful in helping to gather some more support for what you're doing, because I think it's great.
Yeah, our website, I think, was designed to kind of be the flyer, but
and that could be
feedback, that like that's, if there's feedback to that, and like certainly still there's the hub. But is your generation the 70s, Kathy? Because they just, I think that's where were you in that one article that I sent?
That was me.
Oh my gosh, that might be where we know your name from. Okay.
Yep,
There's
was me.
There's a really cool picture of Kathy in the paper in the 70s when she was at a international conference. Anyway. So
yeah, we had, from that whole group of people, we had a whole group of us that there was no such thing as next gen and all of that, but we created our own thing. And so we, I grew up in the Northeast, but I moved to Southern California. We had retreats and all kinds of stuff going on that we just did on our own. And and I'm still connected to those people. So I'll certainly reach out to them, but I know there's others that have that same connection, and there's got to be a way to draw them in.
So I have a question about getting to the consultants to see if they can put the flyers out, and send the flyers out in an email format to all the people that they do because I know when I get an email, there's a ton of people within my region that are getting that same email, that those flyers could go out with it and also be set up at each retreat as well as possibly at Y.O.U, Julie, so that there's a table for somebody, so that we can set up a table. And Betsy and Lynn, you guys could be there to talk to some teams.
Well, I will say, because that ties back to like kind of something that Ed had mentioned, that we need to get the consultants involved, and we've met with them, and our plan is to try to have a meeting next week. But we definitely did alert them that chapter support would want to connect with them, because even from the beginning, we know that one of the things we need is a chapter list that everyone can have access to, so that, like you said last meeting, Ed, that people visiting Virginia Beach can go and see your chapter, or other, and all the other ones, obviously. But yeah, that's okay. But to be conscious of time, we will go ahead and pray out. We really appreciate all of you being here. And so if you'd like to close your outer eyes or soften your gaze, maybe place your feet on the ground, and we'll take a group deep breath together. Just let it go. And as we sit here, we are connected. We are representing thousands of people that we've met and some we've not met at all across the country and all across the world. Let's clear our minds to be present, to do the divine work of the universe. Lou said that leading us in, and I repeat it as we leave. We are divine light. We have always been, and we will always be. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.